Parking at Balboa Park.
The woman accused of killing a 6-year-old in a hit-and-run crash at Pacific Beach was in court today. I have more on her updated charges.
San Diego lawmakers take aim at the Trump administration's immigration crackdown.
ICE and Border Patrol are on a rampage, and that's why we have to stop them.
Why they're willing to risk a shutdown instead of approving more money for Homeland Security.
The top Border Patrol agent in Minneapolis is being reassigned to California amid growing outrage over the latest fatal shooting of an American citizen.
San Diegans gathering in La Jolla to honor those who perished in the Holocaust in honor of Holocaust Remembrance Day.
CBS 8 News live at 6 starts right now. We begin tonight with drama over Balboa Park parking as the city council president pushes back against the mayor's office by proposing free parking for residents. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
I'm Marcella Lee. It's a direct response to a poll showing an overwhelming majority of San Diegans oppose paid parking at Balboa Park. But will things change? And what could this all mean for you?
CBS 8's Abby Black reports from Balboa Park with details.
Dramatic reversal. We're 22 days into this paid parking program here in Balboa Park, and Council President Joe LaCava wants to suspend the paid parking fees for San Diego residents. He and his supporters say that the public outcry was impossible to ignore.
Council President, you say there's no regrets that you had in voting for it, but how is this public outcry any different than what it was when you guys were going through the process than what it is now? And
that's me pressing Council President Joe LaCava, who just announced that he wants to suspend Balboa parking fees for residents only. He says 3 things changed his mind.
A trusted partner has shifted their position.
He's referring to the Balboa Park Cultural Partnership, which has reported a dramatic decline in visitation.
Second, the polling that actually said people were willing to undertake cuts to eliminate paid parking in Balboa Park.
That poll showed 80% of San Diegans want the fees eliminated or reduced, and 51% said they'd rather see budget cuts than pay to park.
The conversation, unfortunately, is increasingly becoming politicized as agents are gaslighting the public, making any hope of better communication and implementation nearly impossible.
LaCava was joined by Councilmember Sean Ela Rivera and Council Pro Tem Kent Lee.
One of our big frustrations was the little time that residents had to even get themselves up to date with the program.
The fee started January 5th. Meters charge $2.50 an hour with a $10 daily max, but the city says strict enforcement hasn't started yet. They're letting people acclimate.
I think that's great. I don't think we should have to pay for the park here.
I've come here my whole life never having to pay. I think it's really stupid that now citizens are going to have to pay to access these things that should be free.
The mayor has been adamant about letting the program run its course. His office got back to me saying the council must show him where they'll cut from other services to make up the near $9 million shortfall, the same cuts they already rejected once.
I'm not going to pretend like there aren't going to be hard conversations about cuts.
Here's what happens next. Tomorrow, a council committee will consider a ballot initiative from a citizen that would take the issue of paid parking to the voters, as well as the council president says that he will take this issue to the city council on February 9th on whether to suspend these paid parking fees in Balboa Park for San Diego residents. That happens on February 9th. In Balboa Park, Abby Black, CBS 8.
Thanks, Abby, for that update. In another parking development today, the city council also tabled the Sunday residential permit program for streets around Balboa Park in Mid-City, Uptown, and Downtown. This means there will be no meter enforcement on Sundays in those zones.
Developing tonight, a man was shot multiple times by Escondido police early this morning after a mental health call at a halfway house. Police say it started around 2:30 this morning when staff reported a man had cut himself with a knife and refused to surrender. Officers responded and then left after de-escalating the situation, but they were called back later when that same man was seen outside the home carrying a knife and a large stick. Police say an officer encountered the man in an alley and ordered him to drop that stick, but they say he charged instead, and that is when the officer shot him.
10 shots went off. I didn't see anything, but I definitely heard all of it because it was right outside my window.
The man was taken to the hospital in critical condition. As part of standard protocol, San Diego police are handling this investigation. Tonight, the woman accused of hitting and killing a 6-year-old boy in Pacific Beach earlier this month made her first court appearance. CBS 8's Alex Cheney was in the courtroom today and joins us live with what happened. Alex?
You know, it was an emotional day in the courtroom, Carlo, as Tiffany Sanchez, she was sitting in the hallway just before court got started. You could see tears on her face. There were family and friends of the O'Laughlins there as well. So it was a very tense courtroom today, as yes, Tiffany Sanchez was charged with 3 counts, 2 of which are felonies, and her bail was increased from $50,000 to $150,000.
The current one of $50,000.
Today in court, we got our first look at 32-year-old Tiffany Sanchez as the bailiff put handcuffs on her.
Yes, Your Honor.
She pled not guilty to all charges. The district attorney brought 3 charges, 2 felonies, gross vehicular manslaughter, hit and run causing death or serious injury, and finally an infraction of driving without a valid license.
The defendant struck Hudson.
The district attorney said today that Sanchez's driver's license expired in 2017.
Essentially here what we have is nothing short of a horrific tragedy. 6-year-old Hudson lost his life far too soon based on driving conduct of Miss Sanchez.
The DA increased her bail amount to $150,000 today because they brought the additional gross vehicular felony charge, which is a more serious charge than the hit and run that she was already out on a $50,000 bond for.
Based on a review of the evidence, my office has decided to charge the gross vehicular manslaughter, which is a higher charge than what she was booked in under. And so given the severity of the charge and the facts of this case, we believed $150,000 to be much more appropriate.
This all stems from a January 17th incident when 6-year-old Hudson O'Laughlin was crossing an alley in Pacific Beach on his bike after having lunch with his family when Sanchez drove into that alley, hitting Hudson and driving over him with both sets of her car's tires. The DA said she did not stop to render aid and drove off. A bystander was able to take a picture of her license plate. SDPD arrested Sanchez about 3 hours after the incident. In court today, family and friends of the O'Laughlins brought pictures of Hudson as they grieve the loss of the 6-year-old boy. Now, I spoke to a civil litigation attorney after court today. He said that the O'Laughlin family is going to be considering some civil charges against Sanchez and the city of San Diego for that alleyway where the crash occurred that he says is a very common place where some of those crashes do happen. Right now, the district attorney says that Sanchez faces a maximum sentence of 6 years for those charges, and she's due back for a readiness hearing on April 4th for this tragic incident. Back over to you.
Thanks, Alex. The San Diego rodeo can continue. That's what a judge ruled today in a lawsuit filed against the Padres and CS Rodeo. The suit alleged incidents of animal cruelty during previous rodeos, including a horse fatally injured during the 2024 event. A horse named Waco Kid slammed into a barricade and later died. The judge is requiring the rodeo to provide additional veterinary care and ruled that pregnant horses may not participate.
A man is in the hospital tonight after an alleged shootout with Border Patrol agents in southern Arizona. Authorities say agents tried to stop a pickup near the town of Arivaca this morning when the driver ran and allegedly fired at agents and a Border Patrol helicopter. Agents returned fire, striking the man, who was then taken into custody. The FBI is now investigating the alleged assault on federal officers. The driver, identified as a U.S. citizen, is suspected of human smuggling. Members of San Diego's congressional delegation are condemning what they call a militarized and deadly immigration crackdown under President Trump and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem.
Representatives Scott Peters, Sarah Jacobs, Juan Vargas, and Mike Levin held a news conference today where they cited recent ICE and Border Patrol operations that left U.S. citizens dead, children detained, and neighborhoods looking like war zones. The lawmakers vowed to block Homeland Security funding unless strict new limits and oversight are added for ICE.
We're all for supporting border enforcement. We want to get rid of the bad guys, but we don't want to be making our communities less safe and literally killing our own citizens. That is not acceptable.
Some are even backing efforts to impeach Noem and dismantle ICE and replace it with a new enforcement agency they say would better respect civil rights. California is taking another big step to limit federal immigration enforcement.
State lawmakers are advancing new legislation that would hold federal agents even more accountable for their actions. CBS 8 State Matters political reporter Jenny Ha has been tracking the bill and reports from Sacramento with an update.
After a long debate on the Senate floor, the bill is advancing to the Assembly, where it will likely be amended to include an urgency clause so it can be effective immediately upon the governor's signature.
Ayes 30, noes 10. The measure passes.
It was a fierce debate on the Senate floor Tuesday. SB 747, the No Kings Act, passed 30-10. The no votes, all by Senate Republicans.
We're going to treat all law enforcement the same on an equal and level field, whether you're local, state, or federal. It doesn't matter. If you violate the Constitution, you need to be accountable.
The bill aims to close what Weiner and supporters call a legal loophole in a federal civil rights law, which allows citizens to sue local and state agents for constitutional violations, but excludes federal agents and officials.
We can't stop ICE from entering California and doing their enforcement. We can make very, very sure that we're doing everything in our power to protect our communities and to make sure that we're not going to be part of your mass deportation.
Strong opposition on the murky legal ground of state versus local authority.
This is truly a tension between federal law enforcement and state laws.
I rise in strong opposition to this bill.
And on the potential for additional liability for local law enforcement.
The way we talk about law enforcement sends signals far beyond this chamber.
Weiner responding.
The duties and defenses and immunities we're creating here are duties, defenses, and immunities that local and state law enforcement already have.
Republicans also taking the chance to criticize SB 54, the California Values Act, our so-called sanctuary law, which limits local and state law enforcement from assisting with federal immigration efforts.
If we would allow our law enforcement to cooperate with federal authorities, I'm telling you, we could probably make a deal between all of us and the federal government to get our handcuffs back. And let's get rid of the worst of the worst.
Jenny Huh, CBS 8.
Thanks, Jenny. Top Border Patrol official Gregory Bovino has been reassigned and is leaving Minnesota amid growing fallout over deadly shootings in Minneapolis.
We'll have more on his demotion ahead in our next half hour. Plus, on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, we're live with a look at how San Diegans are paying tribute to victims.
And growing concern over wildfire smoke in the U.S., why researchers say it may be more harmful than other types of air pollution.